that. Our next speaker here on deck, Dr. Lance Bush. He started his career at NASA as one of the chief engineers designing the next generation of space transportation vehicles. Later in his career, he managed the International Space Station Commercial Development Program. Dr. Bush has long been passionate about encouraging the next generation of science, technology, engineering, and math leaders and innovators, having founded the Space Generation Advisory Council and through his leadership of the Challenger Center, which he is now the president and CEO of. The Challenger Center, a STEM education nonprofit, has 30 years legacy of innovative and impactful programming dedicated to inspiring the next generation. The Challenger Center reaches hundreds of thousands of students and tens of thousands of teachers every year. Please welcome Dr. Lance Bush.
Thank you, Lila, for that introduction, and Michael for reaching out and having me here, and Blue Marble Week and Foundation for the Future, and all of you who are taking your time to listen in. I'm honored to be a part of this, and hopefully I can share with you what we're doing to help with the space community and society at large. So if I could make sure that Molly, my assistant, has opportunity to get the slides started, that would be great. Okay, fantastic. Great. So I'm gonna hopefully share with you what we do at Challenger Center to be all a part of this, and if I'm efficient with my time, we'll have enough time at the end to have a little discussion. So this is my title chart, but it is not a throwaway slide. I want you to look at the bottom line on there. That is what we do. Challenger Center ignites the potential in students. We feel this is one of the most important things we need to do as a society, is to engage students in science and math, because we only have a small portion of the people on this planet who are really science literate, even as citizens. And we have huge issues now and in the future that need to be resolved. So we need more and more people. Today's students are tomorrow's leaders and innovators. You can't, economics 101, you can't just sell like more tires or lollipops to each other and somehow that makes more jobs. You have to create new inventions. And, as Michael and I were talking about this, space is not just kind of a place where we kind of go out and explore. It has huge economic impacts here on Earth. And so we at Challenger Center, we were, born out of, astronauts, families, and, the space community. We understand the whole economic and social impact of having more and more science and technology educated people. So next slide, please. And so for us, the best chance to broaden the workforce pipeline, both for this aerospace community and for society at large, is to reach as many students as possible as early as we can in their education. So a lot of effort gets put into thinking about these advanced degrees in college, graduate degrees, college degrees, and then people think, well, I'm really helping the pipeline when I'm at high school. But the reality is that you lose 50% of the population decides at the ripe old age of 12. By that age, you have had 50% of them said, that's it, I'm done. I'm opting out of anything that's requiring me to take any more advanced science or technology at this point, because I don't understand. It was boring. I didn't like it, whatever the reasons are. And this is well-founded studies for many years. And so we've been attacking that issue with success. So next slide, please. And to bring this more specific to this group, I usually don't talk about these kind of things, and these are probably stats that somebody else is going to talk about here. But just preaching to the choir, we're going to have growth in the aerospace and defense workforce. Almost 40% of aerospace companies predict an extreme impact on business growth based on labor shortage. I think the most important piece on this page, though, is the last thing that we've got down there, that there's a paucity of skilled technical workers. I mean, one thing we always think about is like, people with big, college degrees, but the good news is manufacturing is coming back in this country, and we need those kind of jobs, but those people are getting kind of lost in the shuffle, and we need that. And lastly, we get to talk with the heads of HR of these big space companies. And the one thing they tell us is, oh, yes, we need people with STEM, but they've got to be able to communicate, do critical problem solving, and be good teammates. Those are 21st century skills that we focus on and are really important out there that the HR companies are telling us they really need. So next slide. And beyond aerospace and defense, you know, so much of the world right now is STEM. It's just growing and growing. I just got off a call this morning with the president of the American Farm Bureau. And we were just talking about science, you know, like all the impacts of science and technology there. You know, autonomous GPS downlink with autonomous driven tractors, with chemistry, figuring out the soil composition. So STEM occupations are projected to grow 2 times faster in the next decade. They'll continue their growth. And really, you know, there are so many jobs out there, we don't even know what the new jobs will be. I mean, if we went back to our childhood, some of us, and we tried to predict some of the jobs that are out there now, we would have failed. And so we've got to teach kids to be innovative, creative thinkers, team players, critical problem solvers. So let's go forward. So this is the need that we see out there. So who are we? Who's Challenger Center? Well, we're out there reaching about 250,000 kids a year right now. And, you know, in this day of internet, web-based, you might say, well, that's not a lot of kids. Well, these are in-person interaction. Those ones are the in-person ones right now. So it's a large number. We have 40 locations around the globe. And these are highly immersive role-playing educational experiences. So it's hands-on, it's simulated learning, it's the highest order. And the key for us is this is workforce, and again, going back to this is workforce development. So if you see my backdrop here, this is actually what a Challenger Center looks like inside. And you can kind of see it with these girls here. We put them in this. This is one that's, this just happens to be one in San Antonio at a community college, San Antonio Community College. Next slide. So this is, I presume at this point, Molly is bringing up our video. I would like to take you inside a Challenger Center so you can actually see this. And instead of me trying to explain how it all goes, she's going to show you a video. It's 3 minutes and you'll see the students, their reaction to it, the teachers, and what this whole experience looks like. It's pretty much like being on an Apollo 13 mission.
The crew of the Space Shuttle Challenger was dedicated to a mission inspired by education. Though these heroes were tragically lost, their mission would not be forgotten. The families of the crew created Challenger Center for Space Science Education, a way to honor their loved ones while keeping the educational mission alive.
When the kids are here, they realize that science is not something that's scary, and it's not just from a textbook, and this just reinforces the hands-on science that we do in the classroom, and the kids leave very enthusiastic and just loving science.
Challenger Center launches students into space every day, inspiring and engaging them in science, technology, engineering, and math.
This is Space Guy. We conduct a spectrum analysis of unknown objects.
The Challenger Learning Center does indeed make learning fun. It makes me feel kind of proud about myself because I can go back to school and I can share what I learned and show it.
When the students walk through the door of any one of the global centers, they are transformed.
We are starting the landing simulation.
Astronauts, engineers, researchers, and journalists begin working together in mission control in the orbiting space station.
There could be someone in my classroom that could find a cure for cancer someday. I think it's real important for them to understand there are jobs out there that they are quite capable of doing, and some of them were real apprehensive to come in here with everything that they see around them, but to sit and be successful was absolutely fantastic to see.
No, back over.
While students share the thrill of discovery, the simulated environment brings classroom lessons to life and teaches important skills like teamwork and communication.
It would be fair to say learning is fun here because the instructors make it fun and you will have that feeling inside of you that tells you, okay, I've accomplished this, I'm glad that I listened, and you can tell yourself that I can do it.
We read you over.
It's all about innovation. To be able to spend a day being an astronaut or to work in mission control, my dream is that every child can come to the Challenger Learning Center at least once in their lives, and better still, many times.
As a leader in STEM education, Challenger Center's truly unique hands-on learning opportunities leave students with newfound excitement and passion to learn.
I do want to learn more about it. We went up in space and everyone communicated to each other.
Mission Controller, we are looking forward to working with you on today's mission.
Astronauts, are you ready to go?
Great successes start with something that happened in their youth and their childhood, and this is a fantastic experience for all of my students.
Every job involves teamwork somehow to get a job done.
It's this impact and experience that inspires students to pursue careers in these important fields and command their own destinies.
The Challenger Center experience is dynamic and unparalleled to anything else offered to students.
I think the Challenger Learning Center is phenomenal,
Exciting.
amazing.
Fantastic.
It was an out-of-this-world experience.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, end of test. Roger.
So as Molly is bringing up the charts, I just want to point out that that was just, there are no child actors in this. This is just a day at a center. It's a typical day at a center, and those are the kind of kids we see. So that's why I'm a person who walks around with a lot of hope for the future. I get to see these kids every day. And that vision was built on the shoulder of giants, and these are some of those giants. This is the STS-51L Challenger crew. And they, this was the teacher in space, Kristen McAuliffe in the left foreground. And it is, I wanted to bring them up specifically because this is the third, we've just passed within a couple of weeks, the 35th anniversary of the Challenger tragedy. And to point out that we've worked with over 5.5 million students to date with this programming. And I'm going to show you later some of those students, but let me show you one right now. Her name is Nikki. This is Nikki. I met her. You might have seen her in the video. You might have pointed her out. So on the best days of my job, I actually get to go watch some of these missions and be with the students. And I always make it, I purposefully try to meet them before they go into the mission, find out a little bit about themselves, what their thoughts are about science and technology and where they're going in life. And then, then it's nice to see what their experience is after, how this has this transformed them. And so this is Nikki. I met her and a few other kids in her class. And I remember asking her, about her, interests, and, she watches YouTube videos. So she has some particular, things she follows with with a couple of her friends there. She does play soccer and enjoys it. She loves animals. She's not real wild about her little brother. That kind of came out. I did ask her about, specifically, since I didn't hear it, I asked her about her science class or math class, and she said that she liked them, but it felt a little like she was giving me the answer I wanted to hear at that point. It wasn't kind of, gravely enthusiastic at that point. So anyway, she does the mission. She's the life scientist on the mission. At the end of the mission, I watch her and her teammates come out, some of them in the spacecraft, some of them in mission control. They are high-fiving. They're talking over each other. One's talking about how I saved your life. And Nikki's like, that's the greatest thing I ever did. So it was typical. I was like, wow, this is, this may carry these kids forward and really wanting to engage in their science and math and seeing themselves in these roles they really can do. So anyway, this was at a center somewhere else, and I get back to my office. And about a week or so later, I call the center and say, hey, did you get any feedback from that class? I'm interested to see if the teacher called, sometimes they talk about, how this impacted their classroom. They said, well, yeah, they said, no, we didn't hear from that teacher because they've been bringing their students here for 7 years. They love it. It's really effective. It integrates into their classroom. They said, but Nikki's mom called. If you, we remember you talking, you know, remember this girl, Nikki? I said, oh yeah, I remember Nikki. They said she called, her mom called and said, and asked like, do we have a summer camp, which they do, you know, or any other materials, because Nikki has not stopped talking about this. And she's figured out that, like thinking through it, that her role in life sciences and animals, that maybe veterinarian school is a place, and this is at the age of 11, like she's thinking about career paths and getting serious about, you know, wanting to learn science more. And so that's the impact we can have. And so I'm going to, by the magic of this presentation at the end, I'll be able to show you Nikki in the future. I'll put you in a DeLorean or something with a flux capacitor and we'll go see her. So let's keep going though. So this is kind of the core of what we do. A text heavy chart, but I want you to understand there is a formula of this that we've, it's based on a lot of educational theory, a lot of smart people and my founders. But, you know, instead of just telling people about careers or jobs, we're giving them the opportunity to play a role. And that's the highest order of learning that you get, is when you're simulating something or doing tasks in a real world environment. And we're building those 21st century skills, teamwork, communication, critical problem solving. Every program, educational program we have does this, has these components. And we engage the students in these real world scenarios. And we can do that because we have partners in perpetuity like NASA, who have content experts who can kind of help us write the storylines and make sure the science is right. So this is how we ignite students' potential. So next chart. The impacts that we want to make sure we have is that the students come out aware of these careers. They don't always know at this age, you know, they barely, you know, have any understanding of it. But and now they become more engaged in their science and math. They want to do it. And now they know they can do it. Efficacy is a huge thing. For the most part, what we find, the reason people drop out of wanting to do this because they feel they can't do it. And now they see they can do it. We put them in a situation, they don't even know that they were doing the science that they were doing. So this is the outcome. So let's go to the next chart. So the way we do it, there's 3 different ways, and I'm not going to get into all this, but there was the center missions is the video you just saw. It's an immersive environment. But like everybody else, you know, this new hip thing came along a few years ago called the internet. So we have digital programming called Classroom Adventures, and we've tailored this though to a little younger audience. Our core audience in these mission scenarios are middle schoolers because of the issue we have there. But the Classroom Adventures, we targeted at upper elementary because more recent educational studies are showing that if you don't start engaging students in science and math at time, you're not even going to be able to transform them by the end of middle school. So Classroom Adventures is digital. We can get to a lot more students, and we just rolled that out last year. And when we rolled it out, a pandemic happened as well. So we decided we needed a virtual missions. Virtual is also digital, but it can be done just like this in a Zoom environment. So we can get to kids, even if they're not co-located in a classroom. So that's the way we're doing programming these days. And the hope is that we're going, once we get established more with digital, we'll go to millions. So our impact, let me quickly get the impact, because I do want to leave time for conversation here. So I want to reiterate, we've worked with 5.5 million students to date. And again, remind people, these are mostly in-person interactions, teamwork together in place with these teachers in our scenarios. We hope as we're going forward, we'll continue to do this. In fact, we're building out 2 new centers in the next 12 months. So we're adding to those centers, but we're going to be doing the digital impact. Next slide. These are just to give you a sense of the type of partnerships we have. This is not even completely up to date, but in the upper half left-hand corner is always reserved for our first partner, our partner in perpetuity, NASA. We work very closely with them on content, on science, on outreach. We're one of their biggest outreach partners, but we work with other federal agencies. You can see we work with a whole range of aerospace companies. That used to be a much bigger list. But as you all know, there's mergers and acquisitions. In fact, just in the last 12 months, we lost 3 names off that list because they were, I think it was Northrop Grumman and Lockheed Martin acquired some other people. In fact, I think Aerojet Rocketdyne is now part of Lockheed Martin, but they're retaining their name. So at some point, we may just have 3 names up there. There'll just be a dash. Maybe in 5 years from now, there'll just be a dash between these names. So, and we have other folks. I think Blue Origin is represented by the Club for the Future down there, and there's some other organizations. We have other tech organizations as well that we work with. So now is when you get in the DeLorean. I just took you to the future of Nikki. And the way I was able to do this is we're 35 years old. So we actually have alumni in the workforce. So the evidence of what we've done is there. And so I'm going to show you 3 alumni that we have just out of the thousands who reach out to us through social media. This is France Jackson. She flew a mission at Challenger Learning Center in Richland County School District 1. That's in Columbia, South Carolina. And that is actually the same school district that former NASA Administrator Charlie Bolden went to. France had this experience at a Challenger Center. And if you look at the quote at the bottom of this page, it says it all. I mean, she said, if it were not for this, Challenger Learning Center, I would not be the person I am today. I mean, she went in and she said, like, I realized that I can do this. I want to do it. And I'm going to do it. And she went off and got, a bachelor's degree and then a master's and then a PhD. And she is now working in research, human-based computing research at the Intel Corporation. And so really exemplary of the type of person who gets turned on by what we're doing and carries it forward. And by the way, wonderful person who volunteered her time when she goes back home to help at the Challenger Learning Center or with the next generation. She has the spirit of it. So let's go to the next slide. This is Taylor Young. He grew up in Kentucky. We have 3 Challenger Centers in Kentucky. He grew up in, and 2 of them are in very remote, just coal mining regions, and have been economically depressed. And there aren't a lot of kind of role models in these communities for these students. So these Challenger Centers are really vital. Taylor's just one of, they have a booklet at that center of all their students who came to a Challenger Center, said it inspired them, and then went off to do something else. And some of them come back to the community. And here's Taylor. He's just one example. What resonated with him was the hands-on aspect of it. And to him, that was, engineering, and he wanted to do hardcore engineering, and he got himself off to the University of Louisville, and he's doing an engineering degree, and he's a little earlier in his career than France. So we'll have to, at some point, we'll all get back in a DeLorean and we'll go see where he ends up. And I got one more case for you. This is a fun one to end on for this community. This is Tess Caswell. Tess grew up in rural Alaska. And we have a Challenger Center in Alaska. And that Challenger Center also serves as a community center. I mean, they have like voting, polling goes on there, votes. There's a swimming pool. There's housing, temporary housing sometimes for people. That's our Challenger Learning Center. Well, Tess went there. And it had a profound impact on her. And she said, I can do this and I want to do it. And by this, she didn't just mean the science technology, she was going to be a part of this space thing. And so she went to University of Alaska. She got herself into University of Alaska at Fairbanks in aerospace or mechanical engineering. And from there, she got herself into this little college called Brown. And she got a PhD in planetary sciences. And from there, I couldn't even fit it all on the chart, but she got a fellowship with NASA at Columbia University to identify habitable exoplanets. And more recently, just a couple of years ago, she got picked up by Blue Origin and is being trained to be Capcom for the New Glenn. And I was out there about a year and a half ago visiting some of the executives, and we were talking about us partnering on education. And happened to be just walking down the hallway and saw Tess. And just, it was so fabulous to see her just totally engaged in the space community and the process. And you see her here in her photo. The photo she provided us is her doing a 0G flight. And on her flight suit, she chose to wear her Challenger Center badge, which I think is wonderful. So anyway, I'm going to wrap up here so I can leave at least 5 minutes for some question answers. Michael did ask me to say, hey, make an ask. You got an audience here. Well, here's my thing. We know what we do works. You just saw the evidence of it. We're continuing to grow that network. We're getting digital programming out there. we're like all other education foundations. We live by individual and corporate donations and going and get grants. So on this chart is, you can email us at giving@challenger.org. You can go to our website. But beyond that, we are looking for partnerships, people who can help us get our content out to, whether it's school districts or organizations who have ways of getting it out there. We're looking for content experts. We're looking for anybody who can help us in this mission. If you can imagine somehow that you can help us, that would be wonderful, because we're looking to change the world, make a really positive impact, and beyond, quote, just the space community. This is for the humanity at large. And that's what the original crew was about, and NASA. And so we're carrying all that message forward. So I'm going to pause there, and hopefully I've left a few minutes.
We don't have a lot of time, Lance, but I'm really happy that you shared this. We have to move on in about 4 minutes, so we got to be fast. In terms of partnerships, I want to, if you're able, I know you're kind of in a rush, but check out what Emily is going to talk about in just a moment after you're done. So 5.5 million kids. Pretty good, not bad, right? Sincerely though, it's a great program. I have been through it as an adult, watching other kids do it. It really is pretty startling. And how did it happen for you, right? How I didn't actually, I only heard, I've known you for a long time. I only actually listened to your bio for the first time, half an hour ago. You helped start the Space Gen Advisory Council?
Yeah, so I would, so there's 2 questions there, but anyway, I'll see if I can do all of this in like a minute, who I am or how I got to this. So yeah, I mean, you heard my bio, Lila did a great job of my bio at the beginning. I mean, I started as just like kind of, nerdy, space vehicle designer at NASA, but literally my first week on the job, when I was like scared to death, because I'm here with like, Apollo engineers and like hoping, I'm not going to embarrass myself. And branch chief comes in, and we're in our room that we meet in is where the iconic photo of the Mercury 7 astronauts was taken, in the silver suits with the blue background. That's we meet in that room. So anyway, branch chief goes through the whole presentation of, what projects we're working on. I have no idea what he's talking about, because he's talking in NASA acronyms, and acronyms specific to that group. I had no idea what they meant. And so I couldn't discern what we were talking about half the time. But at the end of the conversation, he says, he's ready to go, say, that's it. And then he goes, oh, wait, one more thing. He's like, almost with disdain. He's like, I forgot. Pocosin Elementary School called again, and they want somebody to come talk to the 3rd grade class. So I'm thinking, oh my God, I get to design space vehicles and I get to talk to little kids. Awesome. And I like raise my hand like I'm still in college. I'm like, ooh, ooh, ooh. And I'm not getting this job because I just started. And I look around the room, and all the engineers are like this. Like they're all looking at the ground. You're like, please don't call on me, okay? So I get the job. I go there. I have a great time. And throughout my career, I ended up volunteering all the time to be like speaker with kids. And I got excited about like their optimism and helping them grow. So I was doing that all my career. And at one point, Michael, I was asked to create a forum at the United Nations when they hold this, once every 15 years Unispace conference. I was asked to bring young people to it. It was only just the representatives of these countries and the heads of space agencies. They said, we need young perspective. And so I organized a forum. I was the executive director in 1999, and that was the Space Generation Forum. It was so successful. The original class that included Robbie Shingler and Will Marshall of Planet Labs. It included George Whitesides of Virgin, Loretta Hidalgo of Yuri's Night, Lisa Kaltnager, who's the Carl Sagan Professor of Astronomy at Cornell. I could go on and on. That original class. Anyway, United Nations said, could you formalize this and make it a permanent observer member of the United Nations? We'd like to have you on the Committee of Peaceful Use of Outer Space. So we created Space Generation Advisory Council. So that's how that happened. Anyway, I went through my whole career. I was at NASA being a space vehicle designer, and then I helped do commercial development station. And I went off and helped run a private space company, Paragon. We were really successful in, setting the skydiving record. And designing the original Dragon inside and Orion capsule. So I did all that. And at some point, Challenger called me about 9 or so years ago and said, hey, you're really successful at growing the organization. We want to get to more kids, and we know you love them, and we can't pay you what you're making because we're a foundation and there's no stocks, but we think you're coming because you love the kids. And I was like, there was one pause. There was like 3-second pause on it. I'm like, damn it, you're right. I will do that. I'm coming. And it's the best job I've ever had.
Well, Dr. Bush, thank you so much. The world is better for having you taken that pay cut. We all are grateful to that. Thanks a lot,
Yeah.
Lance. Dr. Bush, appreciate it.